What's good, everybody? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. Today, we're going to be breaking down quite a stark contrast opinion to what I've heard elsewhere about Soldier 76 and where he's going to stand after the dust settles in the next patch meta. So, obviously, things that we know, D.Va counters Soldier. So, the assumption is, if D.Va is worse, then Soldier, by de facto, will just be better and ravaging through the entire team fight, uncontested, with no D.Va to challenge. Here's something that I think I need to break down. Whenever you see patch changes like this, I think it's a massive mistake to simply look at the 1-to-1 ratio of a duel within Overwatch. You have to see the entire picture of what's going to open up with something being less good. And what I mean by that is, Soldier will not be as good in the next meta as he was now, despite the fact that D.Va got nerfed. Let me explain why. One, first of all, D.Va's nerf is quite overrated, in my opinion. It forces her to play disciplined for once, but it doesn't stop her ability to flush out Soldier. Now, what does that mean? Well, if Soldier's on the high ground, splitting off somewhere, laying down damage from afar, can D.Va still defense matrix up to him and disrupt him from that position? Yes. Without a doubt, yes. Are we forgetting that defense matrix blocks infinite damage still? It doesn't matter what D.Va's health pool works like. It's still 600 health. Yes, Soldier will deal more damage to D.Va now, but all that means is D.Va has to play like an actual tank and not overcommit to fights and pick her engagements more intelligently like a Winston has to, rather than always be in a fight forever. Now D.Va will get punished for that behavior like we think she should have anyway. She's still great at doing that same exact job, pushing that defense matrix into a position and then flushing out a ranged hit scan, and that in itself is a victory, right? That's how you use that tool of the character that D.Va is to use her to make progress onto high ground that you otherwise couldn't, right? These assumptions that we should be able to play a good character in every single situation is kind of a mistake for me. So there's that. That matchup isn't changing nearly as much as people say it is. Pretty much still the same. If D.Va's still shoving defense matrix in Soldier's face, he can't shoot no matter what. It just means she can't overstay her welcome in that fight because he'll actually be able to damage her. Now, what's more important, and far more important, to be honest, is the general meta trend of multi-tank being effective. The question is, and I don't think anybody can actually foresee whether this is going to be the case or not, but if multi-tank is in any way less reliable, it will open the doors for 2-2-2 to creep back in. And I gotta be honest, I wasn't that impressed with multi-tank as it was because it put so much of the game into the Roadhog's hands that I think playing in matchmaking, that reared its ugly head. And when players don't know that the entire multi-tank meta revolves around Roadhog getting value and they play like an average Roadhog, the team comp falls apart and you just sort of stand there absorbing damage forever. It doesn't matter that Ana's OP in that instance, making the team comp look bad, meaning that plenty of other comps were more viable. I think the assumptions that the community has put onto playing the game right now is actually disproportionate to the point where the game actually is. I've talked about this before in the Truth About Meta video. Understanding the meta is a separate concept that we're trying to approach. We're like toying with it and trying to figure it out like it's a mystery. It isn't a certain thing that you can just point to and say that definitely is the meta. Because even now, there's plenty of heroes that are vastly underrated in the meta, especially considering the fact that in matchmaking, it's very difficult to get the pro level of coordination that multi-tanks can get at the professional level where everybody does their job appropriately. At the amateur matchmaking level, the games are much more disorganized, making it much easier to split apart those tank-heavy compositions and allow for the mistakes to wear it down. Making, for me, heroes like Tracer and Pharah, the odd Reaper pick, played appropriately, can dismantle these teams. And that's before any patch has even come out. So it's my feeling that even more DPSs will be viable in the next meta. I think an important thing to mention too in this conversation is Roadhog, because I don't think people have appreciated just how much Roadhog has destroyed DPS play with his broken hook. The strength of Roadhog's hook to deny logic and reason and bypass map geometry to pull you in from around corners to get an insta-kill on you denied the playability of many a DPS character. Because In Hook 1.0, it was the case that it didn't even matter if you played perfectly. It just didn't matter. You could avoid the Roadhog's line of sight entirely and still get punished for it because his reach was around corners. You can't outplay that. Whereas now, if you're picking characters like Tracer, Pharah, Reaper, whoever, you have the map geometry to utilize in order to avoid Roadhog's hook. Now, I do think Roadhog's hook is still going to be dominant and great and sick and everything, but it opens up an interplay that never existed before. That's why I was so hyped about the Roadhog 2.0 video, and I went off on that and basically nerdgasm over Blizzard's face, and I asked Jeff Kaplan to marry me, because we can't underappreciate the flexibility that DPSs will have now to move around the map. What else in the game has been insta-killing you as a DPS, right? So much of the multi-tank meta is based upon the fact that you don't need anything else to shoot, because Roadhog has a near infinite ability to just reach everywhere. Now, the places and positions that he can hook has been basically cut in half. Every single point on the map that you can think of, the lines of sight and angles where Roadhog can successfully hook you has been shrunk, meaning that the pathways for squishy DPSs to get around has been opened. Which leads me to the point that I was about to be talking about before this tangent let me 6 ways sideways. Soldier is good against tanks. Why? Well, his spread weapon gives him consistent ranged burst damage, and tanks have huge hitboxes, meaning that the disadvantage of having a random spread is lessened because he can hold down the trigger and hit his shots anyway. Not to mention that tanks' heads are physically bigger, meaning that he can hit more headshots even. Soldier, for all intents and purposes, right now is a tank buster. And yes, you can try to play him with a bursty style to duel squishier targets, but I think you'd be at a far cry to say that he was strong in that area. He's much stronger playing in the tank meta, where no other hero can really output general purpose damage that you can just spam forever. Breaking Rein shields and pressuring tanks and just constantly outputting big bulk damage. Other DPSs are better at accurate damage, precise burst. Whether we're talking McCree, Pharah, Reaper, Tracer, Widowmaker, Genji, and I don't know, that's just about all of them. Everybody else, basically, is better at shooting accurate small things and bursting them down. And because of that, Soldier's weak spot actually is against other squishy targets. He's average against them. Now, there's some duels that he can pretty confidently win in certain scenarios. What Soldier provides in the DPS versus DPS battle is consistency, not an edge. And that's very important. Other heroes in the DPS categories have an edge, meaning that they will easily excel in a certain type of duel. Whereas Soldier in those same duels, his edges are much smaller. I mean, like him versus McCree, close range, McCree wins with stun. Long range, it probably stalls out and Soldier can heal himself. So yeah, you're not going to flush him out. Medium range, it's more of a skill shot battle. If McCree hits headshots at that range and Soldier doesn't, McCree wins it. If McCree misses and Soldier can spray easily, Soldier wins it. The same sort of works for Widow, who's going to struggle to hit his head jukes. And actually, it's a lot closer than the community thinks with Pharah versus Soldier, because seemingly it's like everyone assumes that a Soldier should just always be able to deal with a Pharah. But I gotta tell you this, with the movement and range that Pharah can have right now, if played properly, she can never die to Soldier. If she always keeps him at bay until she's ready to duel him and then dives him immediately, she can rob him of all of his strengths, the mid-range damage that's easy to hit. She's perfectly capable at staying farther range than he can even hit shots reliably, and she has better burst damage closing in on him at close range. It comes more down to a skill battle where if she shoots first, she probably wins, and if he gets the drop on her, he's probably gonna win. It's not this like hard counter like Reaper versus Winston. There's actually very few of those in the game. It's much closer like Genji Winston, where a very, very good Genji can likely avoid the Winston and has to play away from him, but Winston doesn't insta-kill him. A smart Genji just doesn't engage that fight and runs away. In the same way, Pharah plays that footsie battle with Soldier. And guess what? So do so many other DPSs. Tracer, Reaper, if they find themselves in close distance against the Soldier, their burst damage to the head can outperform his healing station. I know in the past we've made videos about why I think Reaper's decent in the meta right now, but that was one of the key reasons that Reaper's duel against the star DPS heroes right now in the meta, being Roadhog and Soldier, were quite strong. If you're playing Reaper and you close the distance against a Soldier, you can 2 to 4 shot him, meaning that he has to hit a helix on you, if it's even off cooldown, and hit some clutch close range shots. Whereas the shots that you need in order to kill him are, in my opinion, much easier and more reliable. Yes, of course, he can zone you out if he's able to get ranged lines of sight, but what I'm telling you is, the lighter that team comps get, the more mobile they get. So we have to sort of separate our assumptions that forever will be in this tank heavy, everybody groups up in a big ball type playstyle. If the Ana nerf is enough, that style of play is going to be weak to more skillful DPSs that can burst things down. So yes, Soldier is very good and stable at his medium range damage, but the main key to why he was the de facto DPS pick wasn't because he's just simply the best DPS, he's the best DPS to deal with all of the tanks. Because, unlike Reaper, he can stay at range. Now, I still think Reaper and, like, Tracer are still good at fighting tanks in their own way, but they have to do it in the divide and conquer way, not in the Deathball versus Deathball way, which is an easier way to play for most people. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are vehemently disagreeing with me in the comment section right now. And let me just say, the sticking point to this conversation will be your level of play. If you're playing at the Grandmaster's rank, you have to think to yourself, does the pinpoint accurate burst damage of a good Hanzo or McCree outweigh Soldier's general purpose damage? Like, if you're at medium range and Hanzo or McCree hit perfect headshots on the Soldier, what is he to do? It is for all these points wrapped together into one beautiful meta burrito that I think will have a tasty meta around the corner with less Soldier, Roadhog still being viable, but more DPS is being viable as well. Because before, it didn't matter how good you played and how smart you took your angles and positioning. Now, that's an option to you. And that's a whole new world, a whole new meta for you to play. And now you can flank behind a Roadhog and not get hooked around the bend. All right, I don't know why, I'm in a good mood. I just wanted to sing, sorry. And then the patch saved Overwatch and the gamers lived happily ever after in metagame bliss. Now, I reserve the right to be wrong about this. It's happened before. There's a meme on our live streams that Frito's always right, but sometimes I've been wrong on a couple things. But not most of them, I don't think. I have a pretty good track record with understanding how this stuff's gonna move. And I pretty firmly stand that Soldier is not the de facto duelist in a DPS available meta. If DPSs are pickable again, because the reliability of multi-tank to soak up damage indefinitely is lessened, more DPSs will be viable, and then, because Soldier's dueling capability is quite mediocre, by de facto, he can't be at top of the meta. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Be sure to let me know in the comment section below, and I'm sure once this patch drops, you won't let me hear the end of it if I'm wrong on this. But if I'm right, I better get some props on this one, because this is one of the boldest stances I've taken yet. Oh, I know he did it. I know he did it. Hit the like video if you enjoyed, hit subscribe if you haven't already. We upload each and every day. Hit the bell icon to make sure that you get notified when our videos go live. Follow us on Twitch and be sure to set up email notifications on there as well so you get notified when our streams go live. Check out our Twitter at OverwatchYT for stream announcement updates, other cool doodads, and fun ramblings from me. Check out our Discord server to team up with players at all different regions, ranks, platforms, or to just hang out and meme to your heart's content. It's the biggest Overwatch Discord community. Yo, Discord represent. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.